Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Relationship Circle podcast. I'm your host, Beck Thompson, and this podcast is all about showing you how to stop running in circles, ditch those dating games, and let your inner compass lead the way. Today, we've got someone back on the podcast. You're my first person revisiting the podcast. I'm so excited. Welcome, Phoebe Rogers.
Thank you. That's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Nice. Yeah.
It's really, I was thinking about it last week and I was like, if I could pick anyone to come back twice, it would definitely be you because I think I just love what you do. So anyway, let me read your intro again so that everyone knows how wonderful you are. So Phoebe Rogers is a clinical psychologist, couples therapist and author, and once upon a time she couldn't find love. She went on her own healing journey and discovered using inner child work to soothe her nerves when dating and learning to love herself, and this changed everything in dating. She lives with her partner and their dog and now helps other women date to find love. And she tells her story in her book. I'm holding it up. Not that this is mainly audio. When Will It Happen for Me? A shame-free guide to finding love on your own timeline, due for release in the 19th of June this year. Woohoo!
Yes, I'm excited and nervous, as I told you.
Yeah, of course. So normal. It's really cool to put your words out there and to have, like what I was saying to Phoebe before we jumped on air, I was like, I want to hear more about her personal story because it feels really cool to have someone who has gone through this. And I said this last time, I was like, to have you having experienced it yourself and having the professional knowledge you have to back that up just feels like this perfect combination. So I would love for you to like explore like what your journey to love has been like, right back to when it wasn't so good to now.
Really bumpy, rocky, and I would say naive. I think I used to date just thinking, well, you could just date and meet your person and that would be it. And so I certainly attracted certain types of males. I would describe them as quite emotionally intense, like it would spark pretty quickly, but then I'd also noticed pretty early on that they'd have their own struggles. That meant they were hot and cold. They weren't good at managing their own emotions. They weren't established in their lives, which created instability within the relationship. And I kept doing that for a really long time. And at some point, I ended up with a man who I thought was different. So I probably met him when I was 35. I turned 36 when I broke up with him. But I met a man on an app who I told myself was really different because he was different in the beginning. Like he showered me with gifts and nurtured me and actually made me feel really special. It was during COVID. I was feeling really alone and I thought, this is it. And you then start to realize, that this is it's not always a good thing because with all of those emotions and your bonding, you miss or you don't want to see all of the flags. And things went bad pretty quickly, I would say. And I was on eggshells probably more than I had ever been in a relationship and realizing how misaligned we were. So at that point, we were engaged and I was like looking at the rest of my life, but also scared that this was going to be the rest of my life. And so made the decision that was hard in some ways, but also not like, this is not it for me. I can't sign up for this for the rest of my life. And I can't keep doing the same thing I've been doing for, 10 plus years of dating. It's just, you just like see it. You thought it was different, but it's really not different. I think a lot of us have that experience. We want it to be different.
Yeah. And interestingly, right, that it started out different because that's what quite often happens. Yes. It like appears different.
It appears different because we all want the nurturing, and I'd had, partners who'd done nice things for me, but these were, like the flowers and the picking me up from work and the planning. And so it made it quite easy to fall into it and kind of go, here's a guy showing up for me because he's ticking the boxes. But under the the surface, I was so anxious because there were beliefs that I had about the world, about life, about COVID, and we saw things very differently. So I couldn't be myself because it would cause such conflict. And it was, you know, I knew I had to keep quiet actually because otherwise I was going to lose the relationship. But then we were engaged, and so you're like stuck in it in some ways, and you're trying to make it work. And, you know, you discount all of the things that you see and you put it down to something else. Oh, he's having a bad time, or it's COVID, or it's this, or it's that. And then you go, no, this is the person.
Yeah.
And I'm becoming and I didn't see it because it happens quite quickly, like some other version of myself. Some compromising, smaller, shrinking version of myself. And that started to worry me.
Yeah, wow. So you woke up one day and realised that.
I think I knew, like there were just little things, like I talked about his jealousy very early on about like wanting to share our engagement, but he didn't want me to share with like certain people. That felt threatening.
Right.
So it was there, but there was all these kind of loving gestures and this commitment to this life together. And I'm 36, and I think that's an important part of the story. We get to a point when we want all of the things and we haven't had the things, and we think our time is running out or whatever else it may be. It's very easy with all of those forces to get really trapped in something and stuck in there. Yeah.
And this decision seems incredibly brave to me, but I don't know. What was it? Was it scary for you to make this choice, having been at this age in your life and where you were at?
To end it?
Yeah.
I just couldn't not face it. Like, I have some parts of myself that I guess are stubborn, and I think being a psychologist as well, wanting to do the right thing and make a healthy decision for myself. I probably, you know, battled for months, and I was going to therapy, and I was, you know, like I get close to thinking about it, then not. And I'd always want to be working on things within the relationship. But I just knew a woman should not be so anxious about her wedding day and spending your life with a person. You should be excited. And also just in planning the wedding, I could say, oh, we haven't shared celebrations, and we don't have favorite songs. We don't have a history. And so the excitement went pretty quickly. So in a lot of ways, I think the hard part was maybe I was worried what people would think, and maybe also like, actually, could we salvage this? But it became clearer and clearer. We couldn't salvage it because it would be me sacrificing. And so it felt really clear.
Okay.
I probably battled for a bit, but it felt clear. And yeah, the hard part was then the after. I mean, the making the decision, and then the aftermath is harder in some ways because it's telling people, right? And it's telling our wedding vendors and people who you know are so invested in your happiness in a good way. That was a little harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you made the decision, you ended it, and then tell me about life after that. How did you feel? What were you thinking?
It was a blur. I did a lot of, I don't know if they're crazy things, like a lot of things that were kind of driven by my emotions. And one of those things was like getting my dog, which actually turned out to be the best thing ever. But was also stressful. I also froze my eggs because I thought, I don't know if I want children. I really felt I wanted children at the time, and I've been on a journey with that and don't necessarily feel the same. There was a lot of relief of like having the house to myself actually, and just quiet and not conflict and not having to kind of be on eggshells, and just like get back to myself. And then, I mean, I was already in therapy.
Okay.
And I started to go to therapy because I was worried about us and how things were looking. And then, as I kind of suggested, I had this stubborn part of me. It's like, I'm going to work on this. Like, I'm going to find my way through it. I'm going to sort it out. So I stayed in therapy, and then I went searching for dating coaches for people who really work well with relationships so I could figure it out. So I kind of went into problem solving mode as well, but very intentionally and deliberately with that realization, I'm 36. I want all of the things I want. Love. I need someone to help me never do this again. Like, stop. Stop the same types. Stop those mistakes. Like, there's got to be a way for you to have a healthy relationship.
And so before this point, you don't feel like you'd had a healthy relationship with anyone?
I just want to quickly pause the episode here to tell you about my upcoming free Love Unlocked Masterclass. Maybe the reason you haven't found love is because you feel you aren't worthy of love you deserve. And I'm here to tell you that you are, and I want to give you the steps on how you can start loving yourself first to attract that worthy love into your life. In the masterclass, I cover 3 steps straight away, which are uncovering past patterns, understanding emotional needs, and learning how to communicate and set boundaries to amplify your self-worth. Details can be found in the show notes, and I cannot wait to see you there.
No, I dated, whatever their emotional unavailability was in terms of, adjusting to a life in Australia was some of their stories. Changing jobs, not being settled in a career, being financially unstable, emotionally unstable, no mental health problems. I just had tended to find people with big needs, with big stuff going on. Whereas, I would say I'm quite a mature person, I've really been on a steady path of, career growth, development. I could provide for myself. And so I always thought I was giving more, like trying to be more patient with them, sorting out whatever in their lives or going along on their journey or what they needed or, living with lots of intensity or, they're hot and cold or their unpredictability. And so I think the love I'd always had was based on what I gave to someone and what I could do for them, how I could make their life better. There was always some version of that, which I think is a very female version of love.
100%. Yeah.
And a really toxic version of love.
Yeah. 100%. I actually did that. If I reflect back on my relationship with my now husband, we were I was definitely actually attached and he was definitely avoidantly attached. And I definitely went into it thinking, because this is what my mum did, that I need to I'll cook for him and do his washing and do his ironing. And he was super sufficient before that.
Yes.
But I just took over, right?
Yeah.
And then it took me it's so much harder to undo that. Like, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to have this role anymore.
No way. I don't know. Maybe you read the part in the book I talk about starting to do my partner's washing because he was working so hard. And I was like, Phoebe, what the hell? Like, stop, relax. He doesn't need that.
It's interesting though, that feeling needed, like wanting to feel needed, hey? But like, and it's something so so practical and so tangible. Like, I'm doing this thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and we feel empowered, and we've watched exactly our mothers do the same. Yeah, it's so unconscious. It just happens. So the giving and becoming depleted. Yeah.
Okay, so then you're in therapy, you're doing the work, and tell me about this part of your life.
So there are kind of 2 parts of therapy I did. So I had a male therapist, and we did lots of parts work. So being in the body, sitting with emotions in the body, and kind of these, parts of me, pleasing parts or anxious parts or shame parts, and trying to make sense of how I'd coped in relationships. I found that incredibly draining and valuable. And then I found a women's group, which I talk about in the book, that was run by a female psychologist, schema therapist, all with other female therapists about healing their own love stuff and working with our clients, looking at our life patterns like self-sacrifice, fear of abandonment, not feeling good enough. And for me, that was really powerful. That had a big component of inner child work. And I just went, wow, like I have had my whole life no idea how to connect with myself, how to validate my own emotions, how to be kind of a loving support to myself. And it was like the missing bit. And you can hear I'm becoming emotional thinking about it because it truly changed my life. That understanding and then applying it in dating. Just so naming the patterns.
Yeah.
Really clearly understanding what my patterns had always been in relationships and how much I turned away from myself. And in turning away from myself, how much I wanted a partner to meet my emotional needs. And then kind of realizing how ridiculous that had been in a lot of ways and how unhealthy. And the weird stuff about the pattern is the choosing the person who could never meet the need.
Yeah.
Because you're doing the thing you've always done and the thing you've experienced often in early life. And so I just had to change, not myself, but how I was showing up in relationships and change like listening to my body rather than discounting that and just going ahead into the relationship, going, what's actually happening inside and why am I being activated? And I'm probably being activated because this is really similar to what little Phoebe felt. And it's alarm bells. It's not excitement. Doesn't mean you work harder. Pay attention. And so, I really like learnt to get into my body, to pay attention to what's happening inside and really think about why am I feeling this way? And rather than go, this is about me or this is my past or I'm too anxious, to go, hang on, I'm not feeling safe here with this new person. I'm not feeling seen or heard or understood, or they're hot and they're cold. And maybe that actually means something. So truly listening to that, being curious about that. But also if I'm triggered and activated, it's a chance to go inwards and go, what's happening inside for this wounded part and what kind of support does it need in terms of providing like a sense of safety, compassion, your emotions are okay, you're not on your own, you've got yourself. And from that, I was like, oh, this is how healthy connection feels to self. That's how it's going to feel with another person.
So beautiful. I know you speak a little bit about this in the book, but I want to, before we move on to your life now and how wonderful it is, what was it like being a therapist, going like seeing clients while you were also going through this stuff?
People, you know, like sometimes I've had clients, you know, and they'll kind of, I'll be really clear and really direct and really upfront. And it's a lot that when I'm being so direct about their patterns. And because they know my story, I think sometimes they go, is Phoebe like overly sensitive to this or projecting? And it's like, no, I'm seeing the pattern. I'm seeing the pattern from the outside because I now so deeply know and understand this pattern. So it almost like that sensitivity and the stuff I was going through, I think it made me more attuned to people. Whereas in the past, I probably would have been a bit more kind of standing back and not being so direct and actually thinking a dynamic is healthy and kind of a bit more fair and balanced about the dynamic or both people's parts. But now I'm just like seeing you're really triggered and you're really activated and I think you're feeling unsafe. And yes, some of it's your stuff, but let's not forget the environment. Let's not forget the match. Yeah, and so I was more kind of sensitive and like, emotions would flow out of me a little bit more in therapy. And then I rebuilt my strength and I just became more confident in what I was seeing, the patterns I was seeing in my clients. We are not taught to do our own therapy in our training. And it's just made me go even more so, why not?
Yeah.
If we don't figure out our own stuff, we are blind. we can't tease apart what is what, and I think it really stops us seeing stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, you know, in going to therapy, you figure out how a healthy relationship with yourself feels, how it feels with a partner. I think you're much more able to navigate what comes up in the room with your clients.
Yeah, 100%. I'm so glad. I spent so much time in therapy and I'm so grateful. And like particularly now working in the coaching field, that's even more unregulated and even more concerning that people don't understand where they start, where they end, where the client starts and ends. It's messy.
Yeah. Totally agree.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go back to your life. You've done this work, and I want to know, like, how did you know I'm ready to date again? Like, how did you know I've done the work and I'm ready to jump back out there and see if it's worked? I suppose.
Well, I say this in the book. Maybe I went in a bit too early, but I didn't go in solo. So I had, the therapist I was working with, and he was like, I don't know about this person. And even when I met my new partner, I think because he knew my history, he was like really cautious and really worried, like, you're saying things. This guy's busy a lot. He was really worried about me.
Yeah.
But I had supports. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So I had people who worried about me, but then I had this women's coaching container, and I just felt like I had tools, and I felt like I knew myself in a deeper way, and I was really looking at who I was dating and what is the pattern and what is coming up, and really reflecting, soothing myself, and it felt different. So it felt I was dating really differently to how I'd ever dated before. I'd only been single, I think, for about 5 months by the time I started dating. But I go, you know what? Like, that decision I made about ending that relationship was crystal clear to me.
Yep.
And I did have to put the tools I was learning to the test. And it's probably like, I'm 36. I need to find love. And so I still got caught up with some red flag guys, I would say. But I also, I met some lovely matches, I would say, like a lot more aligned with me in terms of values, emotionally available. And like you said, the avoidantly attached, like, that's not a thing. I dated a guy who was probably more leaning that way, and it gave me an opportunity to communicate like I never had before. And so, yes, I was anxious and I was triggered, and sometimes I wouldn't sleep really well, but I had my eyes really open in a different way, and it worked.
Yeah.
So, this stuff works.
Yeah, it's cool. So how did you know when you met your current partner? Like, what were some of the green flags for you that this was something worth pursuing?
Yes. Well, I almost swiped left and kept going because he didn't say what he wanted, but there was just this bit on his profile, how he'll listen to you whinge about Karen at the end of your day. And I was like, okay, funny. And he wants to listen. And from that, his curiosity in terms of his questioning was wonderful and continued into real life. And, he asked me a question early on, am I the type of person who would like to hear from their partner and, hear that good morning text? I said, yes. That's lovely. Absolutely. He was just really consistent, but internally I didn't feel out of my body.
Yeah.
I was excited to hear from him, but I wasn't having this big roller coaster of emotions, or less so. I still had moments when I was triggered. And I talk about that. He's busy. He works a lot. So the not replying to the text messages, and I'd get angry and activated. But I could always tell him, it took a bit of kind of strength and regulating myself, but really I could always tell him, and there was a level of being responsive. But there was also a level of boundaries, which I really loved. And he said, I'm a human. Sometimes I work a lot. I can't. It's a lot. So I also really liked how there was a level of firmness, and it kind of put me in my place about having reasonable expectations. And so I was seeing, lots of health in him, like lots of really good communication. And he was being very methodical, I think, in terms of like, we're meeting these milestones in some ways, like we're spending time on our own. I'm meeting his friends. You know, he's feeling all of that out to see, does this actually fit? And then there was some point early on, I got into a bit of a situation with a tradesperson at my home, and I just sent him a message to say, oh, like this thing is happening, it's a bit uncomfortable. And he read between the lines of that message very clearly and said, I'm getting in an Uber now, like you're not okay.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. And so it became clear pretty early on that he could show up for me, and not in this way that was like overly emotional or intense or expressive. Just he was a good person and kind and listening to my interests and likes, and, you know, like organize a second date at a restaurant where, you know, the food was perfect for, you know, my food stuff, and just, it's just different.
And it sounds like you felt safe and calm with him. I feel like your nervous system felt safe.
Yeah. Little, and this is what I say, you're still going to have those moments, right? Like you know, he was really consistent and doing his best to message, and, you know, the one day you don't hear, and then you're angry and upset and distressed and worried, and should I reach out and shouldn't I? But it all came back together pretty quickly. Like I got the reassurance I needed, but I also had to look inwards and calm myself, say, this is okay. Yeah. This is a human. You know, he's in his life. You're here for you. That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I think would be so cool to explore for people, because I wonder if so there's these early relationships, right, where you're really activated and you're like, maybe you are blaming yourself too much and saying like, is it my anxiety? I need to work on myself, blah, blah, blah. And then you get in this relationship where you still have anxiety being triggered, and you are able to work, I suppose, rationalize and work on your own nervous system there. But how do people know the difference, right, between like that relationship, which is unhealthy, and this relationship, which is healthy, and you're both times you're being activated and triggered, and like, tell me about that.
Yeah, well, I think it's like, look at the outward external behaviors, because that'll tell you. You're going to have to be brave. I think this is what a lot of us don't realize a lot of the time is we're the emotionally unavailable ones. It's really nice to blame them and say, you know, they're inconsistent or they're not talking about, you know, how they feel, but we're often doing that.
Yeah.
And so if you're brave and you say, I found it really hard when I didn't hear from you, or I really like it when my partner, you know, does a little check-in, you know, or it really makes me feel good if we have something to look forward to. Someone who cares about you is going to be responsive or honest and say, actually, I can't. I've got a lot going on, and we'll work with you. And it's in the working with you that your nervous system settles, because you're not feeling ashamed. You're feeling like, oh, they get how I'm feeling and they're happy to meet my needs. And often, like, it's the consistent activation, the consistent on eggshells, the more consistent anxiety, confusion, sleepless nights. If there's a pattern of that, like that's the dominant theme, it's different to having the little spikes, the little external triggers where, oh, he didn't reply to my message until really late. We're all going to have those little things, or, you know, sometimes I still do. I'm like, oh, he's really quiet right now. Is it because what I said was too much or I upset him? But no, like, well, you know, you just kind of adjust. And so I still have the little uh-oh feeling. But then I think about actually the whole week or the whole of the relationships. Like, no, we're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Isn't that's also beautiful to show that work goes into the relationship, you know, like it's not like once you get into that relationship, we're all good and everything's fine.
Come on, like that's ridiculous. In a lot of ways, we're different, and the partner is going to be different to you in terms of, I can talk about emotional expression in the classic female to male. Like, yeah, so sometimes I'm going to want a little bit more emotions and sensitivity, but that's not necessarily how he shows up as a partner, and that's okay. I can do that. I can go, Phoebe, I understand why that's hard for you. I don't have to need my partner to do that for me.
Yeah.
Yes. So you, through this work, this inner child stuff, you can become a better partner and more patient and more compassionate and just reasonable.
Yeah. You just spoke about something really important there in terms of like showing up for yourself and giving that, like, why is that so important before you jump into a relationship with others?
Yeah, it's because the thing, if you've never received that, it's like that hunger's always going to be there. You know, it's the child hunger, and that's reasonable, right? That's really reasonable as a child to want those things from a parent and to need those things. But if you haven't got that need met in your life, we're hungry, right? We just need that to be filled as a human. That's the reality. And appropriate for a child to have that need met by a parent, not appropriate anymore for an adult to expect that to be met by another person. We grow up and that's up to us. And that's often harder and painful, but I think it's also empowering because you can fill up that void inside, whether it's through, you know, empathy, validating your own emotions, reminding yourself that you're lovable, you're capable, you're a joy to be around. It just creates a more calm, integrated person, a whole, who becomes clear with what their needs are and can give those to themselves. But also, you know, it just helps you. Yeah, I want that from a partner. I want that from the person in my life, but I'm not going to depend on that. I'm not going to be hungry because it can come across as anger most of the time, really high expectations that forgets the humanity of your partner.
Yeah.
And it's unfair. It's like so much pressure. I think so much of the time we outsource, I certainly did, those needs, those emotional needs to someone else. And they're set up to fail and never get it right. They can't because they'll, you know, if the wound's not healed, they'll touch on the wound and you'll blame them rather than going, what did I miss? How do I give that to myself?
Yeah, and that's so possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, absolutely.
I moved my bookmark. I had such a good thing that I wanted to read from your book. I think this is really important. Are you okay if I read a tiny bit from your
please.
book? Okay.
Yeah, go. Yeah, love it.
So this is from the very end, and then I actually want to get into more about this book, but Phoebe writes, please also know that you don't need to be perfectly healed to find and keep love. It is an ongoing journey for us all, and you certainly don't need to be the perfect partner. You're human, and we all have our wounds to bear. My hope for you in reading this is that your wounds receive the love they need and that you keep learning to love. So this is such an important message, I think, because sometimes I think I certainly see this with clients where they get stuck in this journey to forever be perfect or to get to this certain spot where they're perfectly healed and have to be the perfect partner and it doesn't even exist. So like I think that's just such an important message to
And it's almost like those vulnerable parts can make you really lovable because they're just real and they're human. Actually, like you're with another human who has their stuff as well, who's not perfectly healed. And in that healthy way, we can heal in love by just showing up for another person.
Yeah.
And just like being by their side and being connection and companion.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think the wounds can ever fully go away. It's about like, can they be less activated?
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Isn't
by
that
choosing
the best
safety.
test? Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Such a good test when you've done the work and you show up and you get triggered and you're not as triggered as you were before, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Tell everyone about this wonderful book because I want people to know what they're going to get from it and, because it's got activities, it's got lessons, there's so much in it. So tell them everything.
I sent a copy to a reviewer, and she said to me she felt really seen.
Oh, beautiful.
Which was so gorgeous. So I think, first of all, there's my story. And that's why I tell my story, because I think it's a story that a lot of us have experienced. So you'll see yourself in that, in the choices that you've made in love. And so it's story, but then there's this healing component, self-help component. What do you actually do with the wounds? So we've got to see and understand the wounds and where they come from, and understand our history. And in understanding that, have compassion for ourselves. This is about, because of what happened to me, I can fix it and take responsibility, but there's no shame. We just kind of end up doing what we do because of these wounds. It's not our fault. It's not anyone's fault. And then I really get into schema therapy in terms of what are your core relationship patterns, the things you do to try and get love, but the love you're trying to get is not always stable and secure. It's often a form of, trying to be liked, people-pleasing, self-sacrificing, but also choosing things or partners that reinforce the wounds, who are emotionally abandoning, who are inconsistent, who make us feel unworthy of love, or as if there's a standard to get to. So I kind of take you through how these wounds are going to look in relationships, in dating, and what a healthier relationship actually looks like, and how it feels, and how your body would feel, and how to test if you've chosen a healthy relationship through the tools of asking yourself really deep, powerful questions. And the empowerment piece of, I can soothe myself, I can meet my emotional needs, I can provide loving connection to myself and care, and that will become the model, that self-relationship becomes the model for our intimate relationships. If I'm vulnerable with myself, if I'm accepting of my own emotions and story, if I am brave and say how I feel, that will be what I attract. So it's about growing into the emotionally available person you actually need to be, and not shaming yourself for that. And it's also, how do you date with eyes wide open and very intentionally and deliberately, so you don't sabotage yourself, so the wounds don't get in the way. And it's a message of hope that, life's hard, but we're going to be okay, and you can find your person. And even if it's not working out, you've got you who can support you and show up for you. That's the piece. It's like less about you finding your person, but more about you can show up for you and have your back and, soothe the anxious girl inside.
That's so beautiful. That's probably my favorite part of doing this work, is that people always come to me because they want love, and then they hopefully leave feeling like I've got the love within myself. So the goal isn't finding the partner, but the goal is how do I find the love within myself?
Exactly. Yeah. And it's, and then, you will attract the right people, and you'll become more discerning, actually, this serves me, this doesn't serve me.
Yeah. In all of your life, right?
All of it, work, boundaries, family, all of it, exactly. Yeah.
What I love so much about this book is that you have these moments where people can, do the exercises, because I think it's really important. I don't know about you, but I read a lot of books, and quite often they go in one ear and out the other. And I'm like, what did I actually learn from that book? Am I just consuming the information? And so I did this course years ago. It was a membership course. But he was very clever in that he had 2 weeks of learning and then 1 week of implementation. And it was the only course I've ever done where they had the implementation built into it. And so that's why I love this, because you can read and then implement and read and then implement. And that's how you're going to actually take in the knowledge and make the change. So I think that is such a hugely powerful part of this book.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a very Phoebe thing to do. I just don't want you to feel good, or I just don't want you to, walk away with this vague idea of what self-love is. Yep. I actually want to show you and have the map of how you actually connect to yourself, what that is in practice. Yeah, a lot of these ideas are too abstract. Yes. So it's the whole roadmap.
So good. Oh, everyone go out and buy it if you are looking for love and you wanting to know if it's ever going to happen for you, because that is definitely a question I get asked a lot. When's it going to be my turn? Is it going to happen for me? And so it's a beautiful roadmap, and it's such a beautiful, physically beautiful book, everyone.
Yes. Yeah, I was so lucky with the publisher, the designer. It couldn't have been executed in a better way. I couldn't even have imagined that. Yeah. And even inside, like, there's got, love hearts and the lines to write. And yeah, I hope it's a whole experience.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing this book. Yeah.
That's my pleasure. No.
Any last messages you want to share with anyone?
I don't know when this is coming out, but the book's on pre-order. It's out on the 19th of June. For anyone who pre-orders, I'm going to do a little live webinar on the 1st of July. So you just have to pop onto my website, therelationshipspace.com.au, register the book order number, and then you'll be invited to an online event. So we'll talk more deeply about healing, do some questions and answers, some little bonuses and things like that.
Beautiful. This should come out start of June, so it'll be out before. Yeah, so it'll be perfect timing. So jump on and pre-order, everyone, and get that magic in your mailbox.
Yeah, it's nice to receive mail when you're an adult, isn't it?
It's really nice. You said this, and then I have another beautiful friend who's making a skincare line, and she's like, "Can I send it to you?" I'm like, "Yes, please. This is wonderful. I love gifts."
Yes,
which is funny because that's my least love language. But anyway, maybe I need to read the quiz.
True.
Thanks so much, Phoebe.
Pleasure, Beck. Thanks.
Thank you so much for listening to the show. If you got value from this, please don't hesitate to share with a friend so they can get value from this too. And don't forget to hit follow so you don't miss an episode. It's also how I keep this podcast alive.
Audience exclusive.